Good evening. I don't think I'm on. Good evening. We're going to start in about 5 minutes. And as we welcome everyone, we wanted to mention that if you're not already a member of ACT or the Arroyo Democratic Club and you're interested in signing in, we'd like to know that you were here. There's a table in the back where you can sign in and let us know that you attended tonight. There is also information on the tables regarding various activisms that are happening in the community. And again, we'll start in just a few minutes as everyone takes their seats.
And then they sign it. I've already done, not here, but, my church, I got it.
Yes, I did.
Is that for me? No, it's for you.
Just a couple of housekeeping announcements as we prepare to start the first portion of our forum tonight. If you're not familiar with the building and the layout, the restrooms are out the doors that are over here to this side of the room. And we do have some water in the back if you need that. Also, please sign in and let us know that you attended the forum tonight. And in just a moment, we'll have a welcome from the college. And very briefly, I'm going to have a short announcement about one of the petitions that is also available to sign tonight.
Hi, everybody. I'm Denise Robb. I'm a community college professor, and I'm with the American Federation of Teachers as well. And we have a petition in the back, if you could sign it. It's called Schools and Communities First. It'll upgrade Proposition 13, but don't worry, it won't affect your property. Only large commercial property like Disneyland, who's paying rates from 1978. It will, Chevron. It'll bring in billions of dollars for K through 12 and community colleges, parks, and libraries.
Thank you, Denise. And thank you to all who volunteered tonight to put on this evening's event. I think it's time for us to get started. And I'd like to introduce Alex, coming up to speak on behalf of Pasadena City College.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. My name is Alex Buckelhide, and I represent Pasadena City College. I work with Dr. Erica Androgianis, who sends her regrets. She had another event tonight to be at. We're very glad to have you here tonight, and I want to thank ACT for putting this together, for joining us this evening. We believe here at the college that we have a real responsibility to the community to provide a forum for this sort of thing and to just engage in that way. And we're glad to be a host. We're glad to have you here today. I have my own brief housekeeping announcement. If you happen to park in lot 1 here tonight, don't worry about parking. We are not ticketing out there tonight, so you're covered. If you should go out there and find that I'm speaking in error, please come find me and I'll be happy to help you out. So we'll see what we can do. I do just want to say a few words before we kick things off here. The college is at the beginning of a turning point for us. We're approaching our centennial in 2024, and so that's only a few years away. And we know the opportunity that presents to reevaluate and just take a good look at what we provide for the community here. Clearly, for 96 years, we've been doing a yeoman's job of educating the San Gabriel Valley, and I'm sure many of the folks in the room here, have themselves or their relatives or their family, their friends, been students here or been to campus for one reason or another. I see some hands coming up in the back, so yeah, thank you. We want to continue that as best we can. Right now, we are going through an educational master planning process that will have us look at what we provide and the services we offer, not just in terms of education, but also for our students. I think no one these days is unfamiliar with the idea of the total cost of college attendance. College students, like so many others, are suffering with low wages, high costs of living, food insecurity, housing insecurity. And so we're paying a lot of attention to that here at PCC. Just as a couple of examples, our Lancer Pantry here in this building, we started it a couple of years ago, and now it serves 3,000 pounds of food a week to students and their families. No questions asked. The students just have to show up. They can shop like it's a grocery store and pick up a meal or a grab-and-go kind of snack. And we're glad to be able to provide that to our students that way. The other data point that we keep an eye on is our students experiencing housing insecurity. We're under the impression and the belief that 10% of our students have difficulty putting a roof over their heads on a regular basis. And so we know that represents a sizable proportion of our population and a sizable proportion of Pasadena. So we're working to find new ways to get around that. Contingent with that is our facilities master planning process, which we're also going through right now. And later this spring, we'll have a draft facilities plan that we'll be discussing with the community, showing how we might change buildings, add facilities, change locations, whatever the case might be, to meet those goals we're setting out in our educational master plan. That will govern our work for the next 10 to 15 years. But we're just glad to have the community here tonight and to continue engaging with you in that way. I do want to make a couple of brief announcements. For the March election, we will be a vote center here on campus. In this building, and actually downstairs in our circadian room, which is a conference room to the north here, folks will be able to come and vote from Saturday, February 29th to March 3rd. The county is changing how they vote this year. I'm sure folks in the room are familiar with that. It is multi-day with vote centers instead of single day with lots of precincts. So we will be a vote center that day. We hope you can come and join us there. And of course, I'm sure I don't have to remind anybody here, but this is census year 2020, and so PCC is going to be doing a lot to make sure we get an accurate count here in Pasadena and the San Gabriel Valley, that our students, that their families and everybody are fully counted, so we can make sure that we are represented as we need to be. Again, thank you. Glad to have you here tonight. We really are honored to host you and honored to have the forum tonight, so we look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alex, for all that the college does for the community and in particular its students. My name is Joanne Wendler, and I'm an immediate past co-chair of ACT, and of course also our sister organization, the Arroyo Democratic Club. We're delighted to have everyone with us tonight for this important and very first forum for the majority of all the candidates running in Pasadena and the related areas for 2020. So welcome. And I'd like to invite the candidates for Pasadena City College Trustee to come on up to the table, and we do have placards for you, and we'll be starting in just a moment with our questions. A few ground rules. Really, this is for the audience, just so that we can all hear what the candidates have to say, but a little bit for the candidates as well. So tonight, we're aware that as we all, and many of us are activists, there may be some activists with us tonight with some signs. I haven't heard any noise yet. To the extent that you're excited about some of the responses of the candidates or the questions, of course, we welcome that. But we're hoping not to have any interruptions as we're working against a tight schedule tonight. Again, I'd like to welcome our candidates for Pasadena City College Trustee. For Area 2, candidate and trustee James Osterling, and candidate Kenneth Rotter. For Area 4, candidate and trustee Hoyt Hilsman, and candidate Tamara Silver. I'm not anticipating that we're going to have any name calling tonight. There's a limited amount of time for responses to our questions this evening, and we're going to have first the opportunity for each of the candidates to make a 3-minute opening statement. Tamara, would you like to begin?
Love to, thank you. Got
Oh,
it.
I forgot to mention, that's right, Denise is keeping time. And if you do see a yellow card, you have 20 seconds. If it's a rose or red color, time's up. Thank you so much.
Okay, is this working? Yes, hi. So nice to see so many people here. So let me begin. Tamara is my given name. I am campaigning as Tammy, my more friendly name, I think. When I first announced my candidacy, people started asking me a question that all candidates get, which is, why are you running? In my case, I realized the tone of this question was different, and let me explain. In our community, there's a belief that PCC is doing just fine. Under these circumstances, why would anybody challenge the incumbent? But is that what we're all about, just doing fine? Why settle for fine when we can aim for excellence? The data show that we are doing fine, and not much better than that. We are not close to excellence, and that is why I am running. Let's talk about the data for a moment. In 2008, 35% of students from Pasadena High School at PCC transferred to a four-year college. By 2015, that number had dropped to 3%. In 2008, 17.5% of students from Pasadena High School received their associate's degree. By 2015, that number had dropped to 4%. Another example, Santa Monica College is a peer institution to PCC with similar size and economic demographics. In fall 2018, Santa Monica College transferred 1,289 students to the UC. That same fall, PCC transferred 783. That same fall, 2018, SMC transferred double the number of students to USC. And in fall 2017, they did send 50 students to Columbia. They did, Columbia University. Another example, computer science, the future of our economy. Glendale Community College, a college half the size of PCC, this very fall offered triple the number of computer science classes compared to PCC. As you might know, in 2019, PCC was a finalist for a prestigious award. So some people assume the college isn't facing any issues. But if you visit the college's website today, underneath the announcement of that award, in bold letters, it says, "We can and must do more." And it lists many of the problem areas at PCC. It says 47% of the students did not complete a degree applicable English class, 52% did not complete a degree applicable math class, and 44% of PCC students did not finish. I agree with the PCC website. We can and must do more for our students. We cannot spend another 4 years waiting for excellence. We need to start now, and that is why I'm running.
Thank you. We'll turn to Hoyt for his opening statement.
Thank you, Tammy, and thank you everybody for being here. Well, my name's Hoyt Hilsman, and I'm an author and an educator. I taught at PCC and at UCLA, and I'm also the vice president now of Pasadena City College Board of Trustees. You know, when I was elected 4 years ago, this college was having some serious challenges. They were on probation on their accreditation status. I don't know if many people know that. And we'd had a lot of turmoil and turnover in the college with our leadership. And amazingly enough, and I think due to the hard work of our board and our college, and especially our faculty and the support of our students, we've really turned this college around. You know, Tammy mentioned excellence. We were awarded for 2 years in a row top 10 in the nation by the prestigious Aspen Institute. And this is not something to sneeze at. This is really an amazing credential for the college. Tammy mentioned transfer. She may not be aware, but Pasadena City College was the #1 transfer in the state for associate degrees for transfer to college. They were also in the top for minority students, and we're a minority-serving institution. So it's incredibly important that we are getting the kind of accolades for the success of our minority students. Some of the things that have happened in the college since I came on is, in addition to the accreditation being restored, we hired a terrific new president who's really going to set us on a great track for the next 10 years. We were, as I said, top institution for granting associate degrees. We opened 4 districts in the PUSD system. And Tammy mentions the transfer for PCC, and I don't quite understand where she's getting her information, but we're not in charge of PUSD. I mean, Pasadena High School and the others need help. Maybe Tammy should have thought of running for the PUSD board instead of PCC. When she talks about computer-related courses, actually, I don't know where this information is coming from, because there's a lot of it that's pretty confusing. I did the checking today, and Glendale has 182 computer-related courses. PCC has 184 computer-related courses. The certificates that we've offered in computer systems has gone from 682 in 2011 to 1,268 in 2019, so it's doubled. So, you know, some of the information that you're hearing here is not quite accurate. I think that the success of the college is the reason that I've been endorsed by so many civic leaders and elected leaders, really most of them. And so I really look forward to serving for the next 4 years, and, you know, mostly for our students, to help fulfill their dreams for the 28,000 students, each and every one of them. So thank you.
Thank you, Hoyt. Turning to Kenneth Rotter.
My name is Kenny Rotter, and one of the things a lot of people have asked me is, why are you running for Pasadena City College Board of Trustees? And one of the first things I tell them is I'm very, very much in love with education. I want to be involved in it. And what got me thinking about the Board of Trustees is, for the last 9.5 years, I have not missed a student loan payment, and I still haven't put $1 towards my principal. And that got me looking into what is happening at PCC. And while some of the students don't have a big student loan debt, PCC for tuition is one of the greatest deals in California. There are other costs involved in going to college. It includes books, it includes fees, it includes transportation, it includes opportunity costs where a single mom or a single dad could be working to put food on the table, but instead they're coming to school to get a better job in the future. We have to take all of that into account, and that's why I started looking more and more into it. Now, one of the things I think I bring to the table is I have more in common with the average PCC student than probably the rest of the board. In meeting with the student association, they've told me that they don't really feel like they have a voice on the board. There is one non-voting student member, but again, the key word there is non-voting. So in talking with the students, I want to be their voice. Now, what's actually pretty interesting is a lot of those students can't actually vote in this election because they can't afford to live in PCC district and they commute from out of the area. I think that that is an issue and they deserve to have a voice on this board. That is where I'm coming in. The next big focus that I want to tackle is mental health resources. In talking to the Students Association, I was told that there are currently 7 mental health counselors that are part-time grad students at other institutions for 28,000 students. That is unacceptable. That is includes 1,000 DACA students as well as 700 student vets who are struggling with issues such as PTSD and transitioning from protecting our country to furthering themselves in the classroom. And what I want to see is more student health, mental health resources so they can adequately tackle some of those issues they are facing. I know I'm about out of time, so again, my name is Kenny Rotter. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I absolutely appreciate it.
And Jim Osterling.
Good evening. My name is Jim Osterling. 4 years ago, I did something I never thought I would do, and that was run for elected office. I was asked by our mayor and some other elected officials in the city to run for trustee at PCC because the governance at PCC had slipped and we were appearing too frequently in the local media. Community college is actually, governance is actually a pretty boring subject, so if you're appearing in the local media, that's not a good thing. Since I've been elected, I'm proud to say that we've restored good governance at PCC. The campus climate has improved, and most importantly, as Hoyt already mentioned, PCC has been named not once but twice as one of the top 10 community colleges in the country. It's really quite an honor to be part of an institution that has achieved that high level. And we're on the cycle to do that yet again the 3rd time. The ESPN Award is based on quantitative. It's not a subjective thing. It's based on student success. Are your students completing and going out into the workforce, completing and going on to the 4-year education? And it's also based on student equity. How do the less fortunate in your district fare at PCC compared to all the community colleges? Again, we're so proud to be one of the top 10 community colleges. When I started, I had a lot of experience serving on corporate boards, civic boards, and charitable boards, but frankly, I'd never served on an education board before. I knew the experience that I had, some of it would translate, but I also knew that public education in the state of California is a very complicated funding mechanism and rules that we have to abide by. So I undertook to achieve the Excellence in Trusteeship training program and did that in my first 6 months as a trustee. And since then, I've been had the confidence of my peers to be elected unanimously to be the board clerk, the board vice chair, and now the board chair. I've served with distinction, and besides the involvement that I've had at PCC, I've also been very active at the instigation of my mentor, Trustee Linda Waugh, in serving in our county-wide trustee group, which is known as LAXTA, where I've served as vice president and president of that group, our state group, the California Community College League, and recently was also elected to chair one of the committees for our national group in the Pacific Division. So I've taken this responsibility seriously. It's been a lot of hard work, and it's been very rewarding, and it's really been a just a tremendous reward to be part of this great institution and help to achieve that success. Thank you very much.
And thank you again to all of our candidates appearing with us tonight. I'd like to give you a little bit of information about our format. We'll be asking a series of 7 questions to our candidates, and we will give each candidate a chance to answer first. This is not a debate, but rather a forum. And so as we ask the questions, everyone will have an opportunity to give a 1-minute answer. And I think that perhaps you had been prepped on this a little bit in advance. It'll be a very brief answer. So we'll have our timer. Denise has the toughest job in the room, keeping us on time. And we'll go ahead and start with the first question, which will go to Hoyt Hilsman as the opening statement started with Tammy. Hoyt, please tell us one thing in particular that Pasadena City College does well and how you are particularly qualified to continue supporting.
So actually, we do a lot of things really well, but I would say the most important thing that we do is to ensure student success. We're an educational institution, and that's our major mission. But as Alex mentioned in the opening, there are ancillary needs that are really pressing for our students, and that is equity, it is issues of homelessness, issues of food insecurity. We have students who need child care. We have veterans. We also have, and transportation needs are another thing. Our students often are working 30 hours a week, helping to support their families. They are often first-generation students, and so they need a lot of support services. And I've been working with the foundation, which is helping to underwrite some of their needs, but also with our administration and our board to try to get some support that these students desperately need. I mean, it was mentioned about transfer. These kids need, and they're not all kids, they need the support to take them to the next level, whether it be a college, a job, or a certificate. So I see the pink card, so I'll stop.
Same question for Kenny. Please tell us one thing in particular that PCC does well and how you are particularly qualified to support continuing that.
I think the one aspect that I've had a lot of experience in is the Student Vet Center. There is a lot of resources there for our veterans. There is a lot of job resources, job training, a lot of school counseling, but not necessarily the mental health counseling that I was talking about earlier. And I'm actually going to name 2. I think the food pantry, PCC does exceptionally well, like you heard, 3,000 pounds of food. But I think it can be better. And so I think in forming local partnerships, making sure we have more food options, and so we can bring that 3,000 up to 4,000. I don't think there's any reason why PCC can't obtain that. And just because we do something well doesn't mean we do it perfectly, and maybe if we strive for perfect, we can achieve excellence. Thank you.
Same question for you, Jim.
PCC does so many things well, it's hard to even begin. The truth is, the way that is done is through the execution on a day-to-day basis by our dedicated faculty and also by our student services. And if I could, these people are awesome, and if I could, I'd hire more of them and pay them everything that we could possibly pay them. But it's not that easy. We also have to deliver these services and manage a budget that we control only a few of the variables. The revenue that comes in from our state is we don't have control over, and that's our primary source of funding. So the trick, and it's not easy, is how do we accomplish all of this and maintain a balanced budget? I'm an MBA, I'm a CPA, and I've also managed companies with budgets that are many multiples as large as ours, and I'm proud to say that we've balanced the budget every year that I've served here so we can continue to provide those good services.
Very good. And Tammy, please tell us one thing in particular that PCC does well and how you're uniquely qualified to continue supporting it.
Sure. So in speaking with students, the students almost universally praise their teachers. We have an outstanding faculty here at PCC. And I've had students that tell me that their professor told them about special programs that they participated in and enriched their lives in their educational program. They go to their teachers for counseling, for college and career advice. So we have faculty that is world-beating. Are we supporting our faculty the best way that we can? I think that there are things we can do. Are we giving our faculty the professional development that they need and want? Also, I'd like to see collaboration with other institutions in Pasadena. I'd love to bring in the expertise of Caltech, JPL, Art Center College of Design, and somehow be a collaborative educational city, not just a single institution.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next question, again with a 1-minute response, and the first to respond will be Kenny Rotter. Are we directing enough money toward career and vocational educational programs versus the traditional academic and what has been lauded as four-year college transfer programs? So again, are we directing enough money toward vocational education?
No.
And you have a whole minute.
I don't necessarily think a 2-year or a 4-year degree is right for everybody. The United States as a whole is suffering from a lack of tradespeople. I think we do need to put some more investment into our vocational certification programs. There is a giant list of certifications that PCC offers, and I think that putting more resources towards those certifications is a great way to get students into PCC and then out of PCC with a job that not only they love, but that they can help to provide for their family.
And Jim?
On this, we agree. The answer is no. About 8% of the graduates from PCC receive a vocational certificate and go directly into the workforce. Approximately 47% of the jobs in the state of California are what we call mid-skill jobs. That means you need more than a high school degree, but you don't necessarily need a 4-year baccalaureate degree in order to fulfill that job. This is where the community college system can and should play the role that they've played, and we need to step that up dramatically. Fortunately, our state chancellor, Eloy Oakley, agrees, and all of the community colleges have been tasked to increase our emphasis on vocational training and also to match up the curriculum at our school with the jobs that are available to this region. And that's one of the things that I'm most passionate and committed to in the next 4 years.
Tammy.
Okay, well, we are a very agreeable bunch here today. So, but I want to be sure that the dollars follow the careers of the future. I don't want us to be a hidebound institution offering courses that students aren't taking, so we should be mindful of where future certificates and careers are. I spoke with a dean who is heartsick that under her department there is a nursing program for physical therapy nurses that PCC can only offer. I can't remember if it's 24 spots per year or 48 spots per year, but it's very limited. They have over 150 students that want to be a part of this program, and these students are chosen by lottery. So even if it's the higher number at 48 per year, we're missing on so many students that want to follow a career in nursing and get their certificate here. So we need to do some improvements.
Thank you. And Hoyt?
Yes, it's a no also, but let me give you solutions and what we're working on. The first is industry cooperation, and we've, through the Business Council of Foundation and through the new Workforce Development Department here, we're networking with industry to find partnerships so that we find out what the jobs that they need that they're looking for and the kind of training that we can do. The Business Council through the foundation is also working to get internships for students, because that's really the way to get a job in America, is to have an internship so they get to know you and they'll hire you that way. As Jim mentioned, mid-scale jobs are so important to our community, to economic development, and to the country. The community college certificate is the new high school degree. You're going to need an AA certificate to get a job in the trades these days, in the health care industry, and in a lot of the jobs, a lot of the areas where you have high employment and a high need for jobs. So that's what we're doing. There are solutions here. We can do it. We don't have unlimited funds, but the point is to really put our nose to the grindstone and make this happen for the sake of our students, because there's a crying need for this kind of training.
Thank you. Our next question, we've touched on high praise for faculty. And as we know, in the community college system, there are full-time faculty and adjunct faculty. This question will start with Jim Osterling. Is the balance between full-time faculty and adjunct faculty at the right level? And if not, how would you make an adjustment?
One of the things that I learned last time when I first ran for election, I made all kinds of ideas for improvement, and you might even call them promises. Then when I became a trustee, I found out that a lot of the moving parts in the equation that we're talking about aren't controlled by the trustees. Our job is very limited, but it's important. It's to hire the superintendent. I think we did an awesome job of that, to establish and monitor the annual budget, and to provide overall strategic direction, and then get out of the way and let the superintendent do the work. And in response to your question, most of the ratio of faculty, full-time versus adjunct faculty, is determined by the state, is what's called the FON, the faculty obligation number. We don't have a lot of control over that. And the way it works is the full-time faculty number is prescribed for us, and they take the teaching assignments that they want, and what's left over we then assign to our adjunct faculty.
Tammy, is the balance between full-time faculty and adjunct faculty at the right level at PCC?
No, we have far too many adjunct faculty members, and I can understand why. An adjunct or part-time faculty member is not given medical benefits, dental benefits. They are a much less expensive teacher for the college. However, that is a price that our students pay. A part-time teacher isn't on campus as much, and they have much more limited office hours, and our students can't meet with those adjunct professors at anywhere near the convenience that they can, the regular professors full-time. Another problem is diversity on our faculty, and we need to hire a diverse faculty, and that needs to happen to reflect our current student body. And so if we could hire some full-time, diverse faculty members, that would improve our student body experience.
Hoyt, would you like to talk about the faculty distribution?
I think it's terrible. I think it's terrible. I think that it's happening all over the country, that you have adjuncts, and they're freeway flyers. I do think they care a lot about the students. I think they're doing a great job, but as Jim pointed out, there's very, very little that we can do. However, we can provide more benefits for our adjunct faculty, and that's something that's been on the table, and the Faculty Association has talked about it. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get to the point where we can provide at least some benefits to these folks who are highly educated, who are really doing a great job with our teachers. On the diversity issue, this is an important one because we are so committed to diversity, and fortunately, we've been successful in hiring 50% of our new hires for the last 10 years have been minorities, and that's really an accomplishment when you look out at our students who need to have teachers from a background that they can relate to. So they look at the teacher and they say, this is something I could be. This is somebody that really is talking to me. So whether it's an adjunct or it's a full-time faculty member, the diversity is critical, and we want to keep working on that till we really reach the level that we should be at. Thank you.
And Kenny, a response?
To echo some of what Hoyt has said, I definitely believe that adjuncts are an important part of the community college world. However, at PCC, currently a big issue in talking with the Faculty Association is adjunct parity. They're currently not paid on par, on ratio with full-time professors. They do not have benefits, so they come to PCC. We spend money to train these adjuncts so they finally get a little bit of experience, and then they, like Hoyt said, they fly across the freeway to a different community college where they can get more benefits, more pay. That is definitely one thing I think we need to look at, because right now we're just throwing good money after bad. Also, I think in terms of diversity, another aspect we need to look at is cultural competency, and that's how professors and adjuncts deal with students that are not of a similar background.
Thank you. Moving on and taking another look, or a deeper look perhaps, at diversity. In this question, first we'll go to Tammy Silver with the 1-minute response. What does student equity mean to you? What does equity mean to you? And what should we be doing to enhance all students' chances at success for an equal experience?
We need to meet our students where they are, not where we wish they were, and we need to make sure that we're bringing the programs that will work for them to them and not imposing what we believe are the things that they need. I would love to survey our students. So we do have a tremendous number of students that drop out, and I would love to simply send a survey. We get surveys for everything today, right? You know, you do anything, you're going to get a survey. And when our students don't come back, I want to find out why. And we need to solve that. So maybe there are simple things we can do that will make the PCC experience and place more comfortable, more home-like for our diverse student body. And we need to learn what that was. We can't sit here and imagine it. We need to talk with our students and find out.
Thank you. And Hoyt, what does equity for the student body mean to you?
Well, several things. One of the things that I think is very important is our faculty, because that's the touch point for our students. And I really think, and we've initiated programs for, as Kenny mentioned, cultural competency training. I've been through it myself. All of our trustees have been through it. It's an incredibly important, eye-opening experience that all faculty should have. So that is going to help us with equity. We also actually do, to a point Tammy made, we do tracking of students and their success, and we need to continue to do that and do more of it, because there are things, there's interventions that we can do that would be very helpful. We really need counseling services for students who are first-generation college. You know, whether they have language issues, whether they're vets, they need support, because college is a very new experience for them. It's not necessarily a given that they can navigate the difficulties of college. So that will help us with diversity. There are all these, it's a holistic approach. It's not just let's do X, Y, or Z. It has to be part of the whole culture of the college. And that's what we're working very hard on. I know that the administration, Erica, our president, is really dedicated to this. So this is a 10-year struggle that we're going to be engaged in, and I think that we're going to be successful. We want it to be 100% equitable at our college.
Thank you, Hoyt. Kenny Rotter?
Student equity, I believe, means equal opportunity, and as Tammy said, meeting students where they are. and giving them the tools that they need to succeed. And it also means addressing implicit bias of both students, faculty, adjuncts, staff, anybody who visits the campus, and creating that atmosphere where everybody feels safe to be themselves. And I don't mean not challenged, I mean where they can come onto campus and they can be who they are and get the tools they need, whether it be assistance, financial assistance, food assistance, housing assistance, that puts them in a lane to succeed.
Thank you. Sorry I stepped away. And Jim, what does equity mean to you for the student body?
Our new superintendent, Dr. Erica Androgenis, has an ambitious goal for PCC. Actually, it's not ambitious, it's audacious. Our goal is to not reduce, but to eliminate the equity gap by 2027. I said, Erica, that's awesome. When you shoot for the stars, if you only end up at the moon, you've really done a good thing. And she said, no, Jim, you don't understand. Our goal, and we're going to hit it, is to reduce the student equity gap. I don't know if we're going to achieve that or not, but that is one of the top priorities for Dr. Androgenis, and I support her 100% on that. How are we going to go about doing that? Number one, we were recently named in an article by political magazines that our student services is one of the tops in the nation in providing student support and services for people from all different backgrounds. That's an important part of how we eliminate the equity gap. I could go on, but I'm out of time. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for observing the time limits that we're under tonight. The next question comes from the audience, and it goes to the security, health, and welfare of students who are perhaps food and housing insecure. And this question will start first with Hoyt Hilsman for a response. Why can't PCC let students sleep in their cars in the parking lot overnight?
So we've wrestled with this. It actually came up as a state assembly bill, and we actually are very concerned about our roughly 1,000 students and perhaps more who are housing insecure. It is everything from couch surfing to sleeping in their cars. I mean, you know, you really don't believe it until you see it. Students who are working so hard to succeed and they're homeless. So what the state proposed was that we open up our parking lots for people to sleep in their cars. And in their infinite wisdom, they failed to provide any funding to us to do this. And what we realized was that we had sanitation, security, and many other issues. Somebody even brought up the idea, which I thought was really absurd to show where we are as a society, that people would buy wrecker cars and rent them out to students to sleep in overnight, and then have them get up and drive away at 9 o'clock in the morning. So we have so many other really feasible and more productive options, which is partnerships with nonprofits, with faith institutions, the idea of finding affordable housing in some of the areas around Pasadena.
I'm sorry, Hoyt, that your time is up.
Okay, I could go on and on.
And Kenny, you have a chance to respond to the question, why can't we let students sleep in cars in the parking lots of PCC overnight?
Well, I actually support the idea of letting homeless students sleep in their cars in parking lots overnight. However, it's a Band-Aid when you've amputated a limb. It's not actually treating the root cause. I think that it would be a disservice to the student body to allow that without having a plan in place to actually find them permanent supportive housing. I think I would echo Hoyt, working with Union Station Homeless Services, working with the new VA that's coming up in Arcadia, working with City Council and the mayor to find new avenues for these students to actually have permanent supportive housing is, we have to have those in place before we can have the intermediate step of letting them sleep in their cars.
Thank you, Kenny. Jim Osterling.
There is nobody that is more concerned and passionate and wants to help the less fortunate students that attend PCC, those that are food insecure, that are housing insecure, than our superintendent, our administration, and our board. They have our full support. Having said that, just because some well-intentioned folks up in Sacramento come up with an idea doesn't mean it's a good idea, and we've already heard some comments already about why it's not such a good idea. So we need to come up with better solutions than that. One thing, just as an example, when I was back in Washington last year for our legislative summit, we were caucusing with Congressman Adam Schiff, and I came up with the idea, why don't we extend the free and reduced lunch program that is now available to our underprivileged K-12, and we extend that to the community college. Adam said, I'm going to sponsor that bill, and he has, and that's called the Food for Thought bill. So that's just an example. It's only a partial solution of some more well-designed ways to help the food insecure and the housing insecure at our school.
And Tammy Silver, would you like to respond?
Yes, we are so lucky to live in California, where, for so many reasons, and one of them is the jewel of the education system that was established decades ago with the UC, the Cal State, and the community college system. When that system was developed, the world was a different place, and financial aid packages for our four-year institutions covered needy students' complete needs with not only tuition, books, fees, but also room and board. They did not provide room and board as part of financial aid packages because when these were started, it wasn't as necessary. Students were living at home and successfully moving to the four-year college. Times are different, and we need to approach Sacramento and get financial aid packages that reflect where our students are today. Our students that attend community colleges are paying more by the time they get their four-year degree than a student that goes directly to a four-year college. It's counterintuitive, and we need to approach Sacramento to fully provide financial aid packages that include room and board for our students.
Thank you very much. And now we have our final question for this evening for the candidates for Board of Trustees. There have been many challenges described related to the budget. And this question will go first to Kenny. I think it's going to go to Kenny. And the question is, what do you see as the biggest budgetary challenge facing the college over the next 4 years?
I think one of the biggest issues is being able to provide, and essentially the hole that a lot of the retiring professors are going to create, because people are living longer and longer and they are using up retirements and pensions for longer and longer time. And I think we need to have the foresight to address those issues and make sure that, yes, while we are meeting our commitments to pensions and retirements, that we are also making sure that each and every student is getting an adequate amount of money per dollar from the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
We're currently in the longest economic upturn that this nation has ever seen, and the state of California has benefited from that. And the funding mechanism for community colleges, including PCC, we've benefited from that. We all know, though, as economic cycles go up, they also go down. I can't tell you when the next economic cycle downturn will occur, but when it does, it will impact community college funding. What we're doing right now is we're currently balancing our budgets, knowing that we're in good times. We've also been able to establish prudent reserves for working capital, and also to start to address the big elephant in the room, which is unfunded pension liability for CalPERS and CalSTRS. And we're doing the best that we can right now to prepare ourselves for when we know the rainy days will occur again.
Thank you. Tammy, what do you see as the biggest budgetary challenge facing the college over the next 4 years?
Also, pension costs, without a doubt. I mean, pension costs are not unique to PCC or the community college system. Pensions are going to bring every governmental entity to their knees in the future. And we've got the finest minds, certainly in California, perhaps nationwide, trying to solve this problem. So when there's a solution, we need to be a part of it. The other thing that I want to caution regarding budget is to be sure that the dollars follow the mission of the college, which is education. To be sure that the dollars follow our student being well educated, and to be careful about administrative bloat. It is so easy for institutions to add layers of administration, and the budget goes to that instead of directly impacting our students. So.
Thank you. And Hoyt?
Well, I'd agree that pensions are a problem. I do think that many of our workers who've worked hard for their pensions are also entitled to consideration here, so it's a balancing act. It does put a squeeze on us fiscally. The other thing that's happened is the new funding formula, which has come down. It's a little complicated, but it's changed, and it's highly controversial because we may, I'm talking about the community colleges, but even PCC particularly, may be on the short end of the stick with it's well-intentioned, but we may be losing revenue there too. So we have a lot of challenges. What I always say is that if the state of California wants to put community colleges out of business, there's not a lot we can do about it, other than working very hard in Sacramento to make sure that these students get the opportunity that they deserve, and that we can cut to a certain extent, but we're not going to cut to the bone. We're not going to cut faculty salaries. We are not going to cut the fundamental educational mission of the community colleges. And we're going to fight hard. I know Jim and all the others on the board are going to fight hard to maintain the standard of educational excellence that we represent.
Thank you. And this concludes our forum for the candidates for PCC trustee. Again, we'd like to thank everyone for attending, in particular our candidates. The candidates do have materials that are available to review, and I believe they'll be sticking around for a few minutes. We're going to take literally like a 4-minute pause before we move into our mayoral candidate forum. So everybody gets a minute to stretch, shake a few hands. If you have any long conversations, we could do those outside, and thank you so much. Yes, Tim. He's in the back. That's fine. Sure. All right, we're preparing to start. Victor, Major Terry. Okay, very good. Okay, great. Okay, thank you, everyone. We're going to start here in just a moment. For those of you who just joined us and weren't here for the Pasadena City College portion of our forum tonight, I just wanted to welcome you tonight on behalf of ACT and the Arroyo Democratic Club. We also had a warm welcome from the assistant to the president of PCC earlier. And thank you for coming tonight. Housekeeping items. If you do need a restroom, please, there's a door here toward the back of the room. That'll take you right out to the hallway where you can find the restrooms. And looks like we're just missing one of our candidates. He's on the way up. For the format tonight, we have a series of questions. And it's not a debate, but it is a forum. Each candidate will have a few minutes to introduce themselves, followed by a series of questions with a 1-minute response. If you have a question for the candidates for mayor or for the candidates for City Council of Pasadena, and you would like to fill out an index card, you can see John Furman, who has those cards. We are including questions from the audience tonight. Okay, without further ado, we'd like to welcome our candidates for mayor, and each have 3 minutes to make an opening statement. Victor Gordo.
Good evening, everyone. This sounds like an excited crew. Good evening, and, hold it, Victor. Is it not, is that better?
Yeah.
All right, okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. So let me first thank all of the candidates for putting their name on the ballot, and thanking all of you for being here. It takes a lot of guts to put your name on the ballot, and I'd like to congratulate Major Williams, Mayor Tornick, and Jason Harden for having done that and giving the city a choice. You know, I delivered the Pasadena Star News, and in that process, riding my bike through the neighborhoods were ingrained in me. I got to know the value of neighborhoods. I got to know the value of the look and feel of our city. I also played Little League in our parks, and I got to know the value of our parks and the value of a city that is respectful of parks and provides good services. I also attended public schools, and I know the value of a good education and its direct nexus to success. I worked my way through school, working at our local restaurants, and learned the value of hard work, and understand very closely why it's important to represent the rights of working people, and have dedicated my life to doing that. All of these things were ingrained in me as a young child, and I know this city from every vantage point, I like to believe, better than any of the candidates. And that's important because we have a representative government. We have a city that's very complex and faces very complex issues. And I believe that I am the most qualified because of my life's experience and my experience in public service to serve as your next mayor. This election is about leadership. It's about internal leadership. It's about citywide leadership, and it's about regional leadership. Let's start with internal leadership. That's important because everyone in this city deserves to have the opportunities that I had. This city should work for everyone as it did for me, and that means building consensus on the city council, building consensus so that the council is in sync with the staff and providing those opportunities to everyone in this city. And I believe I have the best record of building that consensus. Let's talk about citywide leadership. That's important because the issues facing this city in every corner of this city are complex. And we need a mayor who can unite us. We need a mayor who can unite every corner of this city to address the complex issues in every corner of this city. And again, I believe that I'm best positioned to do that. I've heard from too many people that they feel unheard at the top, and I intend to change that. Regional leadership. Many of the complex issues facing Pasadena are regional: housing, homelessness, transportation, traffic. Sacramento's actively eroding our local control and allowing large out-of-town developers to change the fabric and look and feel of our city. And I intend to change that by working with our neighbors and taking a regional approach to all of these issues. So I am going to ensure that Pasadena reclaims its position as a regional leader on all of these issues. I was doing the math today and realized that for over 30 years now, I've been working with many of you to improve our city. And as your mayor, I intend to continue to do that. I commit to all of you that I will respect.
Thank you, Councilman Gordo.
Thank you.
I
That was a long,
failed to tell
Yeah.
Councilman Gordo and the other candidates for mayor that there would be a pink card when time was up, when those 3 minutes expired.
Oh, yeah.
This means 20 seconds.
Nobody told us the rules.
I didn't repeat the rules for you, and that's on me. So we'll move to Mayor Terry Tornick.
Thank you. I heard the rules earlier. Thank you to PCC for hosting this. I was here for the investiture yesterday, and PCC is so critical to the city, and my son is a product of PCC, and now 2 of his daughters have attended PCC, so I feel right to home here. And also thank you to ACT. I've been a proud member of ACT for more than a decade, and I've been fortunate to have ACT's endorsements in both my city council and mayoral races, and I hope to secure that again tonight. But mostly thank you to all of you for electing me mayor 4 years ago. This has been a real privilege for me, and I'd like to do it again, which is why I'm here. When I ran 4 years ago, I focused on 5 major issues: to make Pasadena financially strong, to support the PUSD, to safeguard the environment, to protect the quality of life in the neighborhoods, and to reduce crime. And I think that we've made very significant progress in all of those areas. I don't make promises that I don't work on. And I think that we, tonight as the questions emerge, I hope to have a chance to go into those accomplishments in greater detail. All 5 of those areas require additional work, which is why I'm running again for re-election. We've also got some new and emerging issues. Those are obvious to you. We've got homelessness, we've got state preemption of local rights in terms of land use planning. I believe that I'm particularly well suited to respond to those challenges. I've been living in Pasadena for more than half of my adult life, and I've worked on city issues for almost 40 years. And so I think that I'm pretty familiar with the city as well. And I think that I would like to have an opportunity. I hope you will give me the opportunity to prove that by re-electing me on March 3rd. So thank you, and I look forward to this discussion.
Thank you. Major Williams.
Good afternoon, everyone. I also want to say thank you to PCC for putting together this platform to allow us candidates to come up here to express our need to want to serve the city continuously. My background is a little different than these guys up here. If you follow me or have followed me on this journey, I started over a year ago simply because I knew I had to do multiple things. I knew I had to earn your trust. I knew I had to earn your support, and ultimately, if I do it correctly in connecting with you, not only today, but during the course of this election, to earn your vote come March 3rd. One of the main reasons why I decided to run is because I understood from the year that I've been running, talking to different residents throughout the city, is that we needed a different brand of leadership and someone in office with a different skill set. Now, I haven't been here for X amount of years, like these gentlemen up here next to me, but I come from similar neighborhoods in regards to I'm from Dallas, Texas. I've been in California for over 20 years. I've been successful in my version of success in entrepreneurship and empowering people. If you look at what we actually focus on here as political candidates, even with the mayor's 5 points, it didn't include empowering people. That's one of the essential things that I actually run my platform on, is actually empowering people and working with people. You can focus on development, you can focus on city and workshops, but ultimately you have to focus on people. So I myself felt compelled to take myself out of the stands like some of my neighbors and friends and excuse me, being frustrated with some of the plights of what's going on in the city. And I decided to jump on the field, suit up, put my uniform on, and affect the game, our political climate from a player's perspective. I'm not as polished as these gentlemen up here. They're very studious. They're great at what they do. They're very intelligent. But I'm still standing up here today. I'm not intimidated one bit because I have the strength of the people behind me that I've been talking to for over an entire year. And so this particular platform, I hope at some point you open your minds, you open your hearts and give me a shot, because I've heard some of the online talk and chatter, but I understand it's unfamiliar, it's uncomfortable. But I'm here today to earn your support, earn your trust, and if I don't get it today, continue to follow me, because I'm a work in progress every single day. I feel like I'm a hybrid, and I'm learning not only from sitting next to these gentlemen, their auras, rubbing off of me. I'm a constant student, I'm a great soldier, and I'm an even greater leader. And if you give me the opportunity to show you that, we will actually go into a different direction with this city and bring alignment to some of the complex issues that we see in this city, because ultimately we don't have a lot of problems that we can't fix because they are man-made. And us collectively together, working together, we can fix some of those problems through our imagination, through our will, through our grit, holding hands together. My name is Major Williams. Anyone can text me or call me at 626-623-3753. That's my direct cell. I get 100 text messages a day from local citizens in this city because people really want to see a change in the city and a different brand of leadership. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. And I'd like to take the opportunity to also introduce to you another candidate for mayor who's not seeking our endorsement this evening, but with us also is Jason Harden. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next question. Another element of the format is that we will move along or rotate the order of the questions so that everyone has an opportunity to give the first answer and also the final answer to a question. So our next question, again, for a 1-minute response, and this will go first to Terry Tornick. What are the top 2 issues the mayor of the city of Pasadena should be focused on, and why are you uniquely qualified to tackle them?
I've always felt that the financial strength of the city is the critical issue, because you can't accomplish anything if you can't operate from a strong financial footing. I'm the chairman. I've appointed myself as chair of the budget committee. I'm focused on the city's fiscal health, and you can hear more about that at the State of the City next week, because that is a budget message. The other issue that's confronting us right now that I think is as big as anything else is the homelessness issue. I think we're making significant progress there, but the challenge is still very great. We have 300 people, more than 300 people a night sleeping on the street here, and that's just not acceptable. And so I think those are both issues that I'm well suited to deal with. I have a lot of experience, both as a volunteer and as a professional, in developing affordable housing. And so I think I'm well suited both on the budget side and on addressing some of the homelessness and affordable housing issues that confront the city.
And same question for you, Major. What are the top 2 issues the mayor of the city of Pasadena should be focused on, and why are you uniquely qualified to tackle those 2 issues?
I think I'm uniquely qualified because I will actually be focusing on residential prosperity. We understand that we have a lot of development that's happened here in the city, and from the plight of the burden of everyone is that they can't afford these particular, these luxury apartments that are being built. And so my unique perspective is that, we can have a certain issue in regards to we can create certain platforms where we can actually help people understand that they can't afford to live here, and we have to create those mechanisms, whether it be workshops, whether it be programs, something that can actually be beneficial for them. Also, like Mr. Tornick, Mayor Tornick said, I want to focus on homelessness, and I think that's one of the key issues and problems that we have here in the city. And it's going to be complex from a federal, from a state, and also from a municipal level. We're going to have to join forces together and come up with some creative ideas on how we tackle it, but understand it's going to start with housing, mental health, and a drug addiction.
Thank you. Councilman Gordo, what are the top 2 issues the mayor should be focused on?
So I agree that, well, it should go without saying that fiscal responsibility is important. But I think the top 2 issues are quality of life, and that includes housing, that includes protecting our city, and ensuring that, that as the city evolves, it's the city that we want to see. It also includes public safety. If people don't feel safe in their homes and in their neighborhoods, then we as a city will not be able to continue to prosper. And then homelessness and housing affordability. I think those are issues that are important to all of us, and those are issues that I've been proud to press as a member of the City Council and lead on the issue of affordable housing. 6 of the last 7 projects in affordability have been, affordable housing projects have been in my district.
Thank you. And the next question, we'll start with Major Williams. Do you want to change the level, type, or locations of new development in the city of Pasadena? And if so, could you describe what changes should be made?
In regards to the level and type, I would look for developers that would want to develop under the city ordinance versus the state ordinance, which is some of the issues that we've ran across here recently in regards to certain city council members, city council meetings that we've had. So we're facing some issues when it comes to that. I would, could you say the last part again? I'm sorry.
Sure, and it has multi-parts, and I know there's a short time to respond, but do you want to change the level, type, and or location of new development in the city of Pasadena?
I would just want to change, I would like to change two of them. I would like to change the level and the type of development that we bring here in the city.
Thank you. Councilman Gordo?
You know, I think we have a responsibility to revisit our plans. When we adopted our plans, the state had not started with its mandates. Now the state has imposed significant mandates that have changed at least what we intended in those plans. And so the first answer is we need to revisit our plans to ensure that the intent of our plans is what we want and how we want our city to develop. I am concerned about the placement of development. I'm concerned that we're abandoning our efforts to protect neighborhoods and allowing development into the buffer zones in some neighborhoods, and that's a concern. And so I do think we need to revisit both, and I do think we should do that immediately.
Thank you, Mayor Tornick.
Yeah, I think that we've made some important changes that haven't had a chance to play out yet. We've increased the percentage of units in our inclusionary ordinance so that every new project built in Pasadena must have at least 20% affordable units. Now, that hasn't had a chance to play out, but I think it'll have a significant impact. I think I would like to see more emphasis on development of housing in Northwest Pasadena. I think that there are some opportunities there for small-scale infill projects that could really make an important difference there. And I'd also like to see a continued effort to have a distribution of new units throughout the city. So I think that the plans that we have are basically sound in terms of protecting single-family neighborhoods and focusing new development on arterial streets and in the downtown area. But I think we do need to tweak them, and the specific plan process that we're going through now is the vehicle to do that and accomplish that effectively.
Thank you. And taking this a little bit further in terms of the type of development, this question will go to Councilman Gordo first. What would you do as mayor to promote more affordable housing in the city of Pasadena? And I would like to influence your response also with an audience question about the city planning to sue the state in terms of complying with the requirement for additional accessory dwelling units. And I understand we only have a minute to respond. So again, the question, we're going to try to condense this, but what would you do as mayor to promote more affordable housing in the city of Pasadena? And do you support the lawsuit against the state that is pending to limit accessory dwelling units?
You know, I've been proud to lead the effort on affordable housing, including getting rid of liquor stores to ensure that we build new affordable housing. But we are not going to build our way out of this. We need a comprehensive strategy to, one, yes, build where appropriate, and particularly if we are able to get rid of nuisance properties and build affordable housing. But two, we also need a comprehensive strategy to retain existing affordable housing. And I believe my record shows that I'm capable of doing that. And so I would prioritize both of those issues. In terms of defending the city against the erosion of local control, I absolutely support that. You know, we did it against the 710 freeway. This city has a history of standing up against intrusion by Sacramento. This issue of erosion of local control is a central issue for our city, and we have to work with our neighbors. At the moment, we're not doing that, and I plan to change that. That's the regional issue. We need to get back into the San Gabriel Council of Governments and ensure that together with our neighbors, we are pushing back against Sacramento. Let's build housing, but let's do it responsibly. Let's not allow Sacramento to impose this one-size-fits-all solution to a very important housing crisis.
Thank you, Victor. And Terry, as mayor, what will you do to promote more affordable housing in the city of Pasadena? And could you speak to support of the lawsuit against the state regarding accessory dwelling unit requirements?
Sure. In terms of strategies to develop more affordable housing, I think there are some city-owned parcels that may be candidates for affordable housing opportunities. It's a lot easier if we control the land. We also, I've begun discussions with some people who are advocating to build affordable housing on underutilized church sites, and had an interesting meeting with some folks in this past week to talk about that. It may require modification to our zoning ordinance, but I think it's a great idea. It's not my idea, but I think it's a great idea. I'm happy to endorse it. With regard to the litigation possibility and the ADU issue, which some of our friends are responding to tonight, I'm going to meet with some folks on Friday to talk about the pros and cons of that. The City Council will be taking it up Monday night in closed session. I think it's a very challenging issue, not just because of the illusion of what I think some people believe ADUs can accomplish in terms of affordability, but also in terms of the state overreaching and intruding in what's very basically the rights of local government to the point that we may have to push back.
And Major Williams, your response? Encouraging more affordable housing and developing that with the city potentially considering suing the state to limit accessory dwelling unit.
I would most definitely be an advocate for the ADUs. In regards to affordable housing, I would advocate for trying to find different regulations and ordinances that actually expedite the process of building here in the city. I spoke with many realtors and also developers in regards to why they can't actually build here in the city. Can you send me the second part again for the ADU?
Yes, the second part of the question is, would you support the city suing the state to limit the development of accessory dwelling units?
No, I wouldn't. That's it.
Thank you. And thank you to audience members for submitting that additional question. We're turning to another topic now, and this question I believe will start with Major Williams, if I've got that right. ACT, that's the organization that's co-sponsoring tonight's forum, has advocated for more assertive civilian oversight over the Pasadena Police Department. Would you support additional civilian oversight of Pasadena Police? Why or why not?
Yes, I would, and the reason why I would is because it's what people want. I've had many conversations about this, and I kind of stumbled on this question a couple times simply because in my mindset, I would have to understand what civilian oversight looks like in regards to mechanisms and what it actually entails. And sometimes when you make those yes or no type of answers to questions that are very complex like that, it can bite you in the butt, so to speak. So I'm always I was actually being walking very timidly on that particular question, but standing here or sitting here today, I'm going to say yes. I'm an advocate for it, civilian oversight.
Thank you. Councilman Gordo, would you support more assertive civilian oversight over the Pasadena Police Department?
I support civilian oversight, and let me be clear about that. But I support civilian oversight only by people who are accountable to the voters, not by people who are appointed by elected officials and not accountable to the voters. Look at Los Angeles. Look at other places that have the model that's been pressed. There's no more trust, there's no more accountability, and it allows people like Mayor Garcetti in Los Angeles to say to someone who's concerned about police issues to say, go talk to the police commission. Those police commissioners can then just ignore the residents. Why? Because they're not accountable to them. So I support strong police oversight, and if the members of the Public Safety Committee need more tools to provide that oversight, then I'm willing to look at that. But I want to be responsible about it, and I want to ensure that the people that you elect are doing their job. And so police oversight, I'm 100% for, but only by people who are elected to you as the voters.
Mayor Tornick, your response on more assertive civilian oversight of the Pasadena Police Department?
Yes, I appointed myself to the Public Safety Committee because I frankly was not clear on what my position on this issue was and was not knowledgeable about how it was functioning. I think that the combination of the oversight provided by the Public Safety Committee and the new efforts that the chief has made in terms of reaching out to the community and developing his own civilian connections is adequate at this point. I am very much concerned. I've looked at all the models that various cities have employed in terms of civilian oversight, and they're all fraught one way or another. Some of the issues that Victor raised, but also some other issues that have really come up short. Pasadena, last year, the PD made 6,300 arrests, and there were less than 0.5% uses of force during the course of those arrests. So I think the PD is performing pretty well, I think very well, and I think that the chief is doing a good job in terms of expanding civilian oversight in his own format.
Thank you. The next question will start with Councilman Cordo. Is the city's process for licensing retail marijuana locations or distributors working, or do you think it needs to be changed?
You know, first and foremost, I support the lawful sale of cannabis. I don't support the unlawful sale of anything. And I think, you know, when we wrote this ordinance, we intended an open and transparent process. I've expressed concern on the record a number of times. I continue to be concerned about the process and how it's evolved. And I think it needs to be fixed first and foremost to allow the lawful sale of cannabis, because that was the will of the voters. But it needs to be a more open and transparent process, and I don't believe that we have that at this moment.
I was hoping we could get through tonight without talking about cannabis. The city has invested more effort in this issue in terms of allocation of staff time and treasure than is imaginable. And I think everything that the cannabis issue touches turns to crap. And I agree that it's the will of the voters. We have to have limited retail sales. I think the process as it's been devised is probably as good as it can get within reason. I think because the stakes are so high and we've decided to limit the number so drastically, it's led to litigation, appeal, and that will continue for the next number of months until we finally get a couple of sites operating, and then hopefully this will all abate. But I do think we should listen to the will of the people, license a couple of these places. But I have to tell you that the amount of time, this is not in my top 10 issue list, but in terms of what we've had to allocate to it in city staff time and council time, it's really outrageous.
And Major Williams, is the city's process for licensing retail cannabis locations working, or do you think it needs to be changed?
I pretty much echo what the mayor was saying in regards to that. It's very complex, but I'm also for supporting what the voters actually voted for. We had 9,200 votes, or 9,100 plus votes. And so if you're abiding by the democratic process, and it is about the people, and you're listening to the people as an elected official, what they vote for and what they want should stand. And so me as mayor, or even as a resident from the outside looking in, it would be something I would 100% support.
Thank you. This next question will start with Mayor Tornick. Are we doing enough here in Pasadena to fight climate change? What more should we be doing? And what is the mayor's role on this issue?
In a minute, huh?
In a minute.
So I urge you to take a look at the Climate Action Plan, which is the document that says exactly what we're doing and what we aspire to. I think we are doing quite a lot. I think there's a lot that's beyond our control. The biggest issue that we confront, I think the utility is doing a good job. We're ahead of schedule. We have a coal contract that lasts until 2027, which we can't get out of, but we're only getting about 33% of our power now from coal, so we're doing better. The major issue we have now in terms of the environmental constellation is the recycling program, which is broken. And that is where I think we're going to be investing more and more of our time. Ultimately, that has climate implications as well. But I think the city's doing quite a lot. And all kidding aside, if you go to the Climate Action Plan, you'll see exactly in mind-numbing detail what we're doing and what our aspirations are.
Major Williams, what is the mayor's role on the issue of climate change, and are we doing enough here in Pasadena to fight climate change?
I think the mayor's role is to be as proactive as possible in regards to the professionals and the groups that we have here locally in the city. I think the Climate Action Plan is a great foundation for us to all build upon. But I also urge of all of us in regards to the professionals and everyone that's involved to come up with other ideas to create these think tanks so we can actually expedite the process. A lot of times when you hear about climate change, there's like a 2030 plan or a 2050 plan. With the minds and brilliant minds that we have JPL, we have Caltech, we have PCC. At some capacity, we can expedite their process, and that can translate over to our recyclable use here in the city. And I want to work with some of the youth, like at Sequoia High School, that is doing a lot of great work. I was speaking with a young kid by the name of Ozzy, and he sent me an email, and he said that, this is the most important thing about your election. And I said, no, it wasn't residential prosperity. And then he sent me all these links, educated me. So the last couple of weeks I've been educating myself, but I was open to be educated on that. So if Ozzy is here or listening, thanks, Ozzy. Yeah.
Very good. And Councilman Gordo?
I agree that we're doing quite a bit, and we're basically on track with the state, and we're looking at all of our utility contracts. And I would also invite you to look at our plan. But I don't think we're doing enough. I think Pasadena has a great tradition of leading, and we're not doing that regionally, and we're not adding our voice nationally or internationally. And I think people naturally look to Pasadena to lead. There are close to 500 mayors last time I checked who were fighting this issue and fighting for climate change at the national level, led by Mayor Eric Garcetti, our neighbor to the south. And Pasadena did not join. And I intend to change that because we're a special place. And everybody, not just in this region, but in this state and in this country, understands that. And we ought to use our position as a great city and as a leader, a historic leader, to amplify the call for climate for climate change.
Thank you. The next question is, please tell us one thing that the city of Pasadena does now that it shouldn't be doing. Should not be doing, and what change would you make? And I believe that this question goes to Major Williams.
Yeah.
One thing the city of Pasadena is doing right now that it shouldn't be doing, and what would you do differently?
One thing, and this is my opinion, of course, one thing that the city of Pasadena is doing right now that it shouldn't be doing is putting too much focus and money into task force overseeing the suicide bridge. The money that's going into the bridge, the green spaces up under the bridge is something that I wouldn't actually advocate for. And so as mayor, that is definitely something that I would pull away from and rethink that situation from the people that I've been having the opportunity to talk to over the last year. Everyone feel like it's a ridiculous amount of money that's been spent for someone to tell us how to build something to protect something, knowing that if you want to commit suicide or end your life, it's going to happen regardless. So if you build it 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, they will climb 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet to make it happen. And so those funds can be allocated here locally with residents that are struggling, our homeless population, and some of our homeless populations are 30 to 60 days out of their apartments, and that's why they're homeless. We can attribute a program and funds to help those individuals out.
Thank you for your candor. And Councilman Gordo, what is something that the city of Pasadena is doing right now that it shouldn't be doing?
Failing to listen and be responsive to its residents. As I talk to people throughout the city, that's what I'm hearing. The city has got to start listening more carefully and acting on behalf of its residents. And I don't think, the failing to listen has got to stop. The more I become involved in other parts of the city, the more I've come to understand that. And I've been called upon in other parts of the city to help out, and I have. A part of that is getting back to the issue of development. Because there's a sense, and even if it's a perception, if we don't take the time to do a better job of listening, then we are quickly losing the trust of our residents. And as mayor of the city, I intend to change that.
Thank you, Councilman Gordo. Mayor Tornick, what is the city doing right now that it shouldn't be doing? And how would we change that?
Well, I think in the area of communication with our residents, I think what we're doing now is each department has its own kind of communication voice. We've got a series of newsletters, very nice, that come from a variety of city departments, but we're not doing this in any kind of a coherent way, so I think we're failing to get information adequately and coherently out to the neighbors. I think what happens is because each department believes it has its own constituency, it develops a single-purpose newsletter or magazine or periodical. We only have one sort of central periodical that we send out, and it's not very effective. So I think what we're doing is we're spending a lot of money in an uncoordinated way in communicating with residents, and I've been trying for some time to get us to pull together and do that in a more coherent and effective way so people really know what's going on.
Thank you. And we'll have the final question, which is actually from the audience, and it will in some ways present our candidates with a chance to make a closing statement. And the question is, what is the most important specific reason why you are running for mayor of the city of Pasadena? And for the challengers, what is the specific issue you want to address? And for the incumbent, what would be lost if you are not reelected? So again, the question for all, the question for all is, what is the most important specific, let's say, single reason why you are running for the mayor of Pasadena? And I think this goes to Councilman Gordo.
You know, I believe in this city, and I believe in the people of this city. You know, this city worked for me as it's worked for many of you, and I think there's a strong sense in this community that we're not firing on all cylinders. There's a strong sense in this community that we've lost sight of representing people, that we're representing plans, not people, and I'd like to get us back to representing people, not plans. I believe that our representative government is a good government, but I think it can be better, and I intend to work with my colleagues on the city council to make your city council in your city better because it works for you and puts the residents of this city first.
Thank you. Mayor Tornick, what is the most important specific reason why you are running for re-election?
Well, I have really enjoyed being mayor, and the nice thing about being mayor in a city this size is that individuals can really make a difference. You can really identify problems, listen to what people have to say about them, and then define and implement solutions. Some of the initiatives that I've started on in terms of recapturing the 710 real estate in the ditch, reknitting that into the city, the Arroyo Seco project and the new foundation that's been started to work on that. These are legacy projects that are going to have an impact not just on my life, but on my grandchildren who live here, on their lives. And I feel like I've gotten some of these things started, but I really need to get them more deeply rooted and pursue them more aggressively. And frankly, that's the reason that I decided to try to re-up here, and hope that both ACT and the voters will give me that opportunity.
Thank you. And Mr. Williams.
Yes, one of the main reasons why I'm running, as I said earlier, is because during my discovery and my personal experience, I believe that we are in desperate need for a different brand of leadership. There's a lot of diversity in Pasadena. There's a lot of ideals and different realities here in Pasadena from District 1 to 7. Oftentimes you see the realities of results in production for certain districts. I want to be an advocate for all districts here in the city. And it's also time for leadership that actually motivates you, that actually inspires you, that wants to truly partner with you. For a long time, I go to city council members' meetings and I'm not inspired. It's time to have someone that stands up for you, that wants to stand with you, that wants to empower your pockets, that wants to allow you to partner with you so you can actually afford to live in the city that your hard-earned tax dollars has helped beautify the city time and time again. No one is advocating for you. They'll give you a result, give you a solution, or tell you what to do, but not will they really come down to actually work with you, shoulder to shoulder with you. And that's one of the main reasons why I'm running for mayor of Pasadena. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to all of our candidates this evening. Some of the candidates have also brought material that's in the back of the room. We're going to have about a 5-minute break before we move into our city council candidate forum. And if you didn't have a chance to sign in to let us know that you came here tonight to join ACT and ADC's forum, we'd love to have you let us know your email as well. So thank you again to the candidates for mayor.
One more, gentlemen.
Membership hasn't decided yet, so, here's your chance to take a shot at the membership. Didn't show. Made the offer.
All right, everyone, it's time to get started with the third and final section of tonight's forum for members, for candidates for City Council. And if we could have all of our candidates come up to the front. And we do have a spot for everyone, and you should have some water. You might want to test your mic. Okay, great. And again, thank you everyone for joining us. Briefly, again, an introduction and a couple housekeeping items. My name is Joanne Wedler, and I'm an immediate past co-chair of ACT. ACT and the Arroyo Democratic Club are sponsoring this forum, but of course we're hosted by Pasadena City College, and we're so grateful to have their cooperation. A shout out to our audio-visual team in the back. They're making sure that this is recorded for future playback. So thanks to staff that are here tonight. And we do have it live streamed on YouTube. Okay, that was news to me. Great. So now with everyone taking their seats, I would like to welcome the following candidates for City Council. For District 2, we have Ms. Patricia Keene and Ms. Felicia Williams. For District 4, we had invited a number of the candidates to attend, and we're delighted that Ms. Sharb Land has joined us tonight for Council Seat District 4. For District 6, candidates, current incumbent council member Steve Madison, Ms. Tammy Godley, and Mr. Ryan Bell. So a couple of ground rules, or just a little bit about the format. If you weren't present earlier for the mayoral or for the PCC portion of the forum, you'll have an opportunity to introduce yourselves in just a moment. And after your introduction, we'll be asking a series of questions to which we'll have 1-minute answers. While your opening statement is 3 minutes, the answers or responses to the questions will be 1 minute. We do have some questions from the audience, and if you do have a question for the city council candidates, John Furman has index cards. If you'd like to submit a question, we may still be able to work that in tonight. Restrooms are out through that door, and I think we're ready to get started.
This is 20 seconds, and this is time.
And I have forgotten, Denise, thank you so much. Denise Robb is volunteering tonight to keep time and has kept us on schedule. And that's right, a yellow card for a candidate means 20 seconds, and that pink or rose card means time's up. Okay, very good. So we'll start first with Trish Keene. You have 3 minutes to give us your opening statement.
Great, thank you. Good evening. Thank you to ACT and the Arroyo Democratic Club for hosting this forum. think this upcoming election is a reminder that, especially given our leadership in Washington, what we do here and what we do now actually matters. So thank you all for your passion and dedication, and for all the phone calls and door knocking that you're going to do that'll make a difference and will truly help save our democracy. My name is Trisha Keene, and I'm running to be District 2's councilperson. A few maybe fun things to know about me. I live in Bungalow Heaven. It lives up to its name. I adopt rescue dogs. In fact, I have 3. And I run a lot. Ultramarathons, actually. I've run 50 miles, 60 miles, and in February, I'm going to be running 100 miles nonstop. Wow. And I'm an expert on housing and homelessness, and the best qualified candidate to tackle our affordability crisis that is forcing seniors out of their homes and stopping our children from living in Pasadena. I'm running because Pasadena has been a leader, a place of innovation. We're home to PCC. We're home to Caltech. Obviously, I claim that we're home to JPL, too. We have launched spacecraft to study the stars, placed a rover on Mars, and yet, for some reason, we have lost that sense of progress and innovation at City Hall. As your council member, I will bring innovation back to Pasadena in the way that we govern. We will work to tackle our affordability crisis by incorporating affordable housing at our train stops while protecting our single-family neighborhoods. We'll get creative solutions to getting people around. To create better north-south connectivity for our transit system, we should be looking at things like on-demand microtransit, for instance. But what we cannot forget is the need to address homelessness. We need to solve homelessness. Yes, we've seen a reduction in the past year, so we're doing something right, but we must do more. We need supportive housing with wraparound services because it works. We need prevention. It's efficient, it's effective, and more importantly, it's just the right thing to do. No one in the wealthiest country in the world should be sleeping on our streets. I have the real-world experience to bring innovation back to Pasadena, and I have the real-world experience to get things done. I negotiated the largest voluntary contribution of affordable housing in a development project, done in a way that respected the neighborhood where it was located. I got homeless neighbors off the streets and access to wraparound services with a 154-bed bridge housing project in one of the most impacted neighborhoods in the region. And here at home on the Pasadena Planning Commission, I took on McMansions and adopted common sense regulations to protect our community's character. Let's be frank. This election feels critical. From the White House to City Hall, we have generation-defining decisions about the future of our country and our city before us. I'm dedicated to being your voice on the City Council to fight for an innovative Pasadena, one that solves problems, not ignores them. My name is Trisha Keene, and I'm literally running to be District 2's council member.
And next, an opening statement from Felicia Williams.
Sure. Hello, my name is Felicia Williams. I was born and raised in Pasadena, actually 2 blocks from here, so I've been to this campus many times. My educational background is in public policy and finance. It's a very rare combination, and my experience professionally has been advising cities on how to finance very large, complex projects. This is experience that we need on the City Council, and it's very relevant to City Council, and it's one of the reasons why I'm running. I have walked the entire District 2. I'm the only candidate who's actually done that because I wanted to listen. And I started walking in February, and I sat and I pet people's dogs, and I pet people's possums. We actually have pet possums in District 2, and chickens and a boa constrictor. So I really had a lot of fun walking and talking to the people. So I actually went out and talked to the people because I believe that we need to listen to the people first. Secondly, I've been involved for more than a decade in many groups like ACT. I was the co-chair of ACT. Everyone should do that once in their lifetime just for the experience of trying to keep a meeting on time. And I'm very familiar with this group, other groups, League of Women Voters, the NWPC, the Sierra Club. I'm a lifetime member. I've been very, very deeply involved in the community, not just because I care, but also I find it interesting and I find it great to solve problems for my neighbors. So based on that listening to the people, which is the first thing that a council member should always do, this is what I came up with. The concerns that people have are, one, that there doesn't seem to be a vision in the city of Pasadena. That every Monday night, the council should be coming together and voting to achieve a goal to meet a vision for what the city should look like and what we want it to look like. Secondly, the community feels that they should be consulted first and not last, and I agree with that. There have been many projects that have gone through, they've gotten funding, they've gotten into escrow, and then we go to the community. And I think we should go to the community first, not last. And lastly, it was really hard to hear someone say that the city is focused on money and not people. And that was very difficult for me. I put that in Pasadena Now because it was just a very profound quote. I remember who said it to me. It was an apartment that I went to that's sort of right near the 210 freeway. And I think that now that we've achieved fiscal stability, it's time to reinvest in the people. So my platform, coming from listening to the people, is one, to do real, immediate, affordable housing solutions. Building new is going to cost way more than preserving what we have. And the most affordable housing that we have is housing that exists. So I'd like to preserve that. Secondly is to support development that is consistent with our general plan and provides benefits to the community. Third is to come up with regional solutions for regional homeless problems. And last is regaining our leadership in environment and in innovation that we've had in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Char Bland, your opening statement.
Okay, on the ballot, I am Charlotte Char Bland. So I'm excited to be here today. Thank you so much for PCC hosting and for ACT and ADC inviting me to come. I am a resident of Pasadena for over 20 years now, and I have a husband. His name is Reggie. We together have 4 children and 7 grandchildren. So what am I going to do in my spare time? I'm going to work on the council. So it's exciting to be here. District 4 is a great place to be. We have several great big box stores there. We've all had the opportunity to visit that side of town during the holidays. And of course, view the floats. We have a great couple of days of float viewing there, which we bring, hundreds of thousands of people there to see the floats. So we get to invite them to our neighborhoods. We have great parks and great walk areas. We have great schools like PUSD, Don Benito. We have the Noise Within, in which we can see great plays there as well. We have a great commitment of constituents in our neighborhoods who really care about what happens in District 4. And why do I know that? Because I've knocked on those doors. I've talked to them. I try to make my way through the neighborhood, but they invite me in for coffee and cookies, and so it's hard for me to make it through my list. So it tells me I'm doing the right thing running for City Council. I'm running for City Council to really hold City Hall accountable to our neighborhoods. I plan to protect the character of our city, and I will ensure that new developments are safe and smart and work to find solutions for homelessness. As an 18-year resident plus District 4 with over 4 decades of experience working with local government on behalf of large corporations providing successful IT solutions to the County of Los Angeles, with over 100,000 employees and 60 agencies, I have proven skills it takes to be a city council member with the city of Pasadena. For the past 8 years, I have served on the Commission of Status of Women, and a couple of those years, I chaired the commission in efforts to increase awareness around social justice for pay equity, homelessness, women veterans, human trafficking, and other quality of life issues facing women. I'm very proud that on Monday the 13th, we will take a resolution for CEDAW at our city council meeting. It's a convention to eliminate discrimination against women. That's powerful. It's been a treaty that's been in place since the 70s. So I'd like to invite all of you to attend that because we've worked hard as a commission to do that. I've served on the YWCA Board of Directors. I am on the Pasadena Junior League Advisory Board. I worked on grandparents as parents on behalf of standing up for them in court. I'm a Tournament of Roses member. And most importantly, I want to live in Pasadena District 4 in a toxic-free environment. Homelessness is a moral responsibility to all of us, and that is why I'm running for City Council.
Thank you, Char. Ryan Bell, your opening statement.
Thank you. I too want to thank Pasadena City College for hosting this and for ACT and the Arroyo Democratic Club. Thank you all for coming out. I think it's great, especially in the climate that we currently are in, to see so many people participating in our democracy. Of course, it's a small fraction of the 140-some thousand people that live in Pasadena, but I'm sure you'll tell your neighbors to come out to the next event like this. My name's Ryan Bell. I live in District 6. I'm running for City Council in District 6. I've been a leader in the nonprofit sector all of my life. For 20 years, I was a pastor of churches from the Philadelphia area to Los Angeles, most recently in Hollywood, California. In 2011, I earned my doctorate from Fuller Theological Seminary. After I left my last role as a pastor, I worked for PATH in Silver Lake, People Assisting the Homeless. As the Director of Community Engagement, I was responsible for building partnerships and coalitions between elected officials, city council offices in Los Angeles, neighborhood councils, and other local groups that are working to end homelessness in the city of Los Angeles. You think we have a homelessness problem? Yeah, how do you even get your head around that? And today, I'm the program director for a national nonprofit based here in Pasadena called the Secular Student Alliance. We work in higher ed, student affairs support services, supporting students that are running clubs on their campuses around the country. For the past 15 years, I've been a housing justice activist. I've worked in various anti-poverty initiatives in Los Angeles and now in Pasadena. I'm a member of the Pasadena Tenants Union and the Pasadena Tenants Justice Coalition Steering Committee, and I've been a part of working to end homelessness in Los Angeles and Pasadena. The weird thing about sitting here is that I've been on the other side of this for the last 15 years. I've been the one speaking into the microphone at city council meetings, agitating for elected officials to do what they need to be doing to end poverty and homelessness and injustice in our cities. So to be frank, it feels a little weird to be on this side, a little sobering, but I feel like we need leadership as well in city council to do the things that sometimes it takes a little extra courage to do. I'm running for city council because I've seen, especially in the last 2 years, that our residents are experiencing a level of pain that is really overwhelming to them, and they're not being heard in City Hall. Gentrification is pushing families out of the city. Corporate landlords are buying up properties. Long-established communities of color are being displaced. People that have lived here for generations. Pasadena is, like a lot of cities, a tale of two cities. When people think about Pasadena, they think about the Rose Parade, they think about Colorado Boulevard, they don't often think about Northwest Pasadena and over-policing and displaced tenants. And I think it's time that a tenant also be represented on city council and represent the needs of working people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Tamerlyn Godley.
Good evening. I'm Tamerlyn Godley, and I'm running for Pasadena City Council District 6. Thank you so much for being here this evening, for your commitment to Pasadena and to the issues of our times. And these are interesting times. I think we all wish they were a little less interesting. These are challenging times. And the thoughtful leadership begins at the local level. These are disruptive times. The policies and solutions of the past 20 years will not be the solutions for the next decade. We have to think differently and creatively. Challenging circumstances can often bring about the greatest innovations. With the bright minds and public-minded spirit of Pasadena residents, we can work collaboratively to address the issues of our times in new and exciting ways. But why should you vote for me and consider me for endorsement? First, I think it's fair to say that today I have a better sense of what the people in District 6 are thinking about and worried about and concerned about than anyone else. Like Felicia, I've been walking door to door for almost a year. Through the warming days of spring, the hot days of summer with many hills in my districts and stairs, the cooling days of fall, the warm glow of the holidays, and now this bright, crisp, beautiful January. I have been knocking on doors, talking to thousands of people, or going to thousands of houses and talking to so many people on their porches, in their living rooms, at their kitchen tables, hearing their concerns. Their concerns are my priorities, and you will hear me talk about them tonight. Second, I have an established record of important work. In addition to my work as a partner at the law firm of Munger, Tolles, and Olson, I have been involved with, to name just a few things, the Rampart Commission investigating LAPD misconduct and making recommendations for reform, the Citizens Commission on Jail Violence investigating the Sheriff's Department and making recommendations for reform, serving on the LA County Inmate Welfare Commission, addressing issues of recidivism, serving on the South Pasadena School Board. I've lived in the area for 30 years. I lived in District 6 for 11 years. Before I moved to District 6, I lived in South Pas and served on the school board there. I moved to Pasadena in 2008. Here I've served on the Pasadena Educational Foundation for the last 10 years in various leadership positions, raising money for our schools. I've served on the Armory Center for the Arts for the past 10 years, a past president. I've led a litigation team that defeated a sweeping school voucher program in Nevada that would have gutted their education budget, and then founded a national organization, Public Funds, Public Schools, focused on combating the depletion of public school funding. While I've not been sitting in the City Council for the last 20 years, I've been extremely active in the causes we care so deeply about, and I have a depth and breadth of experience that make me well situated to address the challenges of this new decade.
Thank you. Councilman Steve Madison.
Thank you. I want to echo the gratitude that's been expressed to ACT and the Arroyo Democratic Club, and also to PCC. PCC is a great school. My oldest son, actually, after a couple of years in performing arts school, is taking units here, and we love PCC. It's interesting, you have 6 candidates here up on the dais, and I'm the only incumbent. I'm the only one that has any actual experience getting things done on the city council. Talk is easy, but getting results is difficult, especially on an 8-member city council. And I think you've heard enough tonight to know that the city of Pasadena is a spectacularly complex municipal services organization. We have over 2,000 employees. We have a total budget of over $700 million. And the panoply of issues that faces us, from owning a football stadium to running a public utility, a convention center and a civic auditorium, and a police department, a fire department, and all the other things that we do, a public health department. We're one of only 3 cities in the state that has a public health department. I'm very proud to be a part of that. This is no place for dabblers or on-the-job training. And we have some excellent candidates up here, but I do want to note that I'm the only one that actually has any real experience. I have a record to judge. And just in recent times, some of my accomplishments are that we finally killed the 710 freeway. That is a massive historic victory for my district and for the entire city of Pasadena. And I was the leader, humbly, I tell you respectfully, of that effort. We raised the minimum wage. Before the state of California, we raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and I was the leader on the city council in that effort as well, and we're taking steps now to protect tenants and renters, including recently our eviction moratorium. In my district, we built 9 affordable single-family homes and a new neighborhood park and open space at Desiderio. I'm extremely proud of that. We have 29 school-age children among those 9 families that live at Desiderio. Those are future and current PUSD students. We persuaded PUSD to not close the one remaining school in my council district, San Rafael School. Crime is down. We're moving to cleaner, greener energy. I'm surprised nobody tonight yet has mentioned the fires in Australia. This week, I suggested to the city manager that the city of Pasadena send 2 firefighters to Australia to help in that effort. We need to do more on climate change. I've been humbled to have the endorsements of Bill Bogard, Adam Schiff, Judy Chu, Anthony Portantino, Chris Holden, many, many more The steering committee voted 24-8 to endorse me, and I'd be honored if you would join them. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to our first question, which will have a little bit of flavor by district. And the question will first go to Felicia Williams, as we're going to be alternating the start of the answers. And this question is, are there any particular issues relating to new or existing developments that uniquely affect your district? And how should we resolve these issues?
Sure. Thank you, Joanne. The issue that affects District 2, there has been one transit-oriented development that has been completed in District 2. So we don't really have sort of big specific plan development that has been happening because most housing is prohibited along Colorado Boulevard, which is sort of the main stretch that goes through District 2. But what is happening is that single-family homes are being torn down, and some of them are landmark eligible, and they are building, getting air rights and building condos. And this has been very disruptive for the neighborhoods. This is what, when I walk down by the single-family neighborhoods sort of south of the freeway, this has been something they've been concerned about. These are very expensive condos, again, luxury housing, and it changes the character of our neighborhoods, and it is going into our neighborhoods. So that's probably the number one thing. I think what I would change about it is that I would give incentives to, if you are going to build that kind of housing, it should be mixed income housing. It should provide a benefit to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And the same question for Char Bland. Are there any particular issues related to new or existing developments that uniquely affect your district?
Absolutely.
And how should we resolve those issues?
Absolutely. I believe that we're all very aware of what's happening in District 4 with the development of Space Bank. It's a huge issue of toxicity in the neighborhood, and I personally don't believe it just stops there. And so we know that we're demanding a full site soil and water remediation. We know that the city has an independent oversight authority, but the developer, definitely needs more oversight over that. We signed a document that voluntarily gave the DTC control over the oversight. But we need to have the city require a better cleanup around that. At this time, it's in litigation, and so we need to make sure that nobody is on that property without it being developed, without toxicity in there. I know that with all having children, that we don't want them to end up in that property and coming to us years later to ask what happened.
Thank you, Char. And Ryan, the same question for you about the district in which you're running.
Yeah, our district, District 6, has a very large number of single-family homes, but there are also plenty of apartment dwellers in our community, in our district. And I think the thing that comes to mind most about new development is the, as was mentioned earlier this evening, the recapture of the 710 extension stub and the ditch that is in District 6. And there's going to be a new plan for that space. There's going to be a mad dash to develop it in all sorts of different ways. And for me, I think we have way more than enough unaffordable housing in Pasadena, and we pretty much for the next near term need only affordable housing in Pasadena. And I think it's super important that as we think about what's going to happen to the 710 extension, that we develop affordable housing and some green space in that territory.
Thank you. Tamerlan.
Well, certainly the 710 stub is, over the next decade, will be one of the most exciting things that we'll be doing as a city. And we need to have lots of public input involving the best minds in planning and urban development, creating great public spaces. So that's a really exciting thing that's on the horizon. But in the meantime, we need to make sure as Caltrans makes its plans about what it's going to do with the different freeway on-ramps, we need to be very active in that process. Right now, we have the Caltrans houses that we need to get back and into the hands of people. The people are still renting there. They're terrible landlords. Walking up and down those streets, all I hear are complaints about Caltrans as a landlord. We also have, so we need to do something with that in developing those vacant lots. And then development of South Fair Oaks, the Raymond Art Zone potentially from the Armory down to the Art Center, potentially senior housing in the area. So there's a lot of really interesting things going on in our district.
Thank you. Councilman Madison?
So a number of the issues have been mentioned. I would say, first and foremost, in my district, we acquired a Caltrans house, and we're actually using it as city-owned rental affordable housing for women. We have 3 low-income women working, living in my district, and our district, our neighborhoods have accepted that with open arms. The stump is, just as I mentioned, an historic victory in terms of killing the 710. Now we have an historic opportunity with 50 acres that we will essentially develop from the ground up. And we participated in a project called Connecting Pasadena, which came out with some great ideas in terms of a vision. And now I think our goal is to take that to the next step as we reacquire and repurpose the 50 acres from Caltrans. We also need more affordable housing. We have 6,000 affordable housing units deed restricted in the city now. Our goal is 20,000, so we've got a lot of work to do in that regard.
Thank you. And returning to candidate for Council District 2, Patricia Keene, particular issues relating to new or existing developments.
Thank you. You will probably hear me this evening talk a lot about the need for housing affordability. But I want to take this question in a slightly different direction because I think for District 2, there are a lot of areas in District 2 that are single-family neighborhoods that are covered by historic districts, and so we do not always have the same kind of development pressures that you might see in other parts of the city. But something I think that we need to focus on that helps to create complete and healthy neighborhoods where people have opportunities to walk to get their services, to get their needs met, to go to the store, to go to a restaurant, is really the revitalization of our commercial corridors. We've seen a really good example of that happen not far from where I live, at the corner of Washington and Hill, where we reused an old building, and it is now a thriving commercial corner where most of the people who visit the restaurants and the coffee shops there and the other stores walk there. And I think we need to do more of that throughout the district to really create a healthy community.
Okay, thank you. So turning to an issue that residents often bring up, which is traffic congestion. And having already commented on new and existing development, thinking about traffic, short of prohibiting all new development, is there anything we can do to quickly reduce traffic congestion while increasing pedestrian and bicycle safety on our streets? And of course, this is a conflict, but how do we do it? So again, short of prohibiting all new development, is there anything we can do to reduce traffic congestion while increasing pedestrian and bicycle safety? And the question first goes to Char Bland.
Okay, great question, particularly in District 4. We woke up one morning to the road diet. And so the road diet is where you come off on Madre and all of a sudden you go up north on Sierra Madre and the lanes become one. And that didn't work very well for our community because we have a lot of traffic flow there, a lot of great shopping there. And we noticed that that was actually going to go on to Orange Grove. And so the constituents showed up 100 to 200 people to contest that because there's got to be a better way. So we're looking at, we were able to actually not have that happen because it wasn't good traffic flow for us. And so the idea would be that, yes, we need to make sure that we have some control over traffic flow in there, but we have to find a way to use other alternatives. Get off to the bike may not be necessarily for everybody, but we do have a metro station in District 4 that kind of leads to all places in the Southern California area. So that would be an option as well.
Thank you, Char. Ryan?
Yeah, so this is one of those questions about city governance where I feel like people want a painless solution. And there are no painless solutions to this problem. We need to get out of our cars and into public transportation and onto our feet and onto our bicycles and scooters and other alternative forms of transportation. While I think we need to be careful about where we place road diets, I think there is evidence that shows that narrowing streets slows people down. It creates safety for pedestrians. It gives us space to put bike lanes and create other alternative modes of traffic, to create dedicated space for public transportation routes, and to start moving people from their cars into other alternative modes of transportation, which will also cut down on greenhouse gas emissions in our community and air quality and all the other issues around the environment that I think people are concerned about. So obviously it's a complex planning issue and transportation issue, but I think traffic is one of those concerns that seems very, very specific to the demographic of people that I think are asking those questions, right? People that use cars as solo drivers and not as, a lot of my friends don't drive cars.
Thank you. Tamerlan?
So to a person, everyone I talk to wants to make sure that we do not become the gridlock mess that is the West Side. So people do feel like we aren't there yet, and we need to make sure that we don't ever get there. I think we have a lot of technology that's in the offing. It's not here now, but it's certainly something that we want to be aggressive about, looking into routing people throughout the city, making sure that our lights are timed in a certain way to manage that. So there are technology solutions that aren't here yet, but that are coming down the pike. I think we need to make attractive spaces for increasing pedestrians, but we have to be honest. People are not getting out of our cars, so we can't make plans with a wishful thinking that they will. Unless we make it attractive enough, they aren't. So we have to do planning that assumes that people are going to be in their cars and have to work really hard to attract them to get out of their cars and to walk. But otherwise, we need to look to technology.
Thank you. Councilman Madison, is there
Thanks.
anything we can do to reduce traffic congestion, increase safety?
Again, in 1 minute or less. I can
In
just
1 minute or less.
spot a few issues for you. I think, first of all, another benefit of the 710 being killed is that Caltrans and Metro are looking now at alternate transportation projects, and the city of Pasadena will receive hundreds of millions of dollars directly and indirectly from those efforts. So we have a real opportunity to improve our transportation infrastructure. We hired a new transportation director, and my field rep and I have driven around the city with her and looked at these issues. One of the things, as an example, that we're looking at doing is putting the Gold Line either above or below grade at California to improve congestion. I've also proposed more traffic officers so that our transportation is safer, and I intend to continue doing that. And we have a program called Complete Streets that addresses some of the bicycle and pedestrian issues. We've done that in my district at Avenue 64 and Lida, and we're going to do it in other places as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Trish Keene?
Yes, so I think we have several options for how to approach this issue from a variety of viewpoints. One, we need to do more to have transit-oriented development. Putting people near high-quality transit increases the opportunity for people to use high-quality transit. In our city, we have 6 Gold Line stations. We have excellent east-west connectivity and a very difficult time getting to those Gold Line stations if you are north or south of them. We can use on-demand microtransit. We can use other types of systems to get people to those transit stops without having to drive there. I think we heard tonight that it might be difficult to get people out of their cars, but I believe people want choices. And if we give people choices, we'll enable them to use the transit system that we have already invested in. But I think also, in order to make it safer for bikes and pedestrians, we have a Complete Streets Coalition that is doing some pretty incredible work in this city, and we should probably use them and listen to what they have recommended.
Thank you. Felicia Williams?
Sure, thank you for the question. Traffic has definitely gotten worse. You can look at the DOT data, and a lot of that is actually due to new development. We have full parking requirements for most new development. We have not gone through the process of reducing parking requirements. I'm on the Planning Commission. When you talk about transit-oriented development, we had 2 of the first TOD projects in Pasadena. That's Holly Street Village and Del Mar Station. Less than 5% of the people take the Gold Line who live in those buildings. We're doing something wrong. So they are fully parked, people are not taking the Gold Line, and this is part of what's creating the problem. We need to reduce the parking requirements, we need to make developers tie those projects to transit and connect them and improve the street so that people can actually get to them. You can't even get from the Del Mar Apartments into the train station. Right. So this is part of the problem, and we need to work with Metro to make the Gold Line safer. I used to travel on the Gold Line all the time, and as a woman, it's very difficult. There was a pretty scathing report that came out about women and safety on the Gold Line. We need to improve it.
Thank you very much. And we know that tonight we are touching on issues. We're not going to be solving them, but it's an opportunity for all of us to discuss and to hear what you have to say. And so let's turn to a question that is that expands the reach of the city of Pasadena somewhat in terms of its scope. This question will first go to Ryan. What steps could the city of Pasadena take to forge a more effective collaboration with the Pasadena Unified School District, the PUSD?
Yeah, I think, it's obviously separate governance, but I think what's been done so far has been helpful. I think the measures I and J have at least shown that the city wants to raise additional funds for PUSD. I think building lines of communication between city council and the school district is urgently important. I feel from the teachers and administrators that I've spoken to that they don't, whether it's true or not, they don't feel that they have an ally always in city council, and that they're struggling to have our public schools recognized. We have more private schools in the city of Pasadena per capita than I believe any city in the United States, or maybe it's just California, but it's a lot. And I think we underrate, we could do more on city council to promote our public schools to our communities and make them highlight their benefits and their successes.
Thank you, Ryan. Tamerlan, what steps could the city of Pasadena take to forge a more effective collaboration with PUSD?
So I think the first thing is respectful relationships and knowledge about our schools, and I bring both of those things. All of the school board members that are endorsing me. They understand that I know about public education, I know about our schools, and there are some really terrific things going on in our schools, and our city council needs to know about them and be trumpeting them. We have wonderful dual immersion programs. We have one of the first in the country app academies at PHS that is a 4-year computer coding program. We have robotics at all of our middle schools. We have a collaboration with the Arts Institution in town throughout the elementary school years. We have robotics. So it's respect and it's having those relationships, and I already have them and can bring that to the city council.
Thank you, Councilman Madison.
So one of my sons, unlike Tammy, I have a son that actually attended PUSD schools. One of my sons graduated from PHS. The other one went east to play hockey at prep school. I'm supportive of the tangible things that we're doing to help the school district. And I think we all know that Measure J passed by even a greater margin than Measure I. I think what may explain some of the dissonance here is that I think we need to ensure that those monies are prudently spent. And I've been troubled by some of the reports that have come out of the district and the county in terms of the fiscal accountability. So I really want the relationship between the council and the district to not just be one of writing a check and saying goodbye, but to use that funding as a way to develop an even stronger relationship. We do a lot together now, joint use. We opened a park in my district at a school site, Linda Vista, after the PUSD closed that school, but we can do a lot more.
Thank you, Steve. Patricia?
Thank you. Obviously, school funding is one of the things that the city can directly help with, given the different governance structure between PUSD and the city of Pasadena. But I think something else that we need to be mindful of is that we took a really big first step in putting mention of public schools in our general plan as part of our general plan policy. So that is something that we, the city, can think about when we are planning for our city and how our development and planning and implementation of our general plan and specific plans actually impacts the school district itself. And I think one other thing that we can focus on is actually supporting the attendance at schools with providing affordable housing and tenant protections, and really having a supportive system where people who attend the schools have housing to live in Pasadena so they can participate in the public school system.
Thank you. Felicia?
Sure. As a board member of the Pasadena Educational Foundation, I was the principal for a day at Marshall High School. I saw the diversity and the beauty that is our public schools. I've been to each of the schools in our district, Longfellow, Jefferson, which unfortunately is closing, and Marshall. So the first and foremost, what the City Council can do is support housing options for families. What we are getting now is luxury housing, and that does not support families sending their kids to PUSD. It also does not support working families that work here in Pasadena and need to stay in Pasadena. So one of my big pushes is adaptive reuse, especially of the YWCA building. We have other buildings, we have churches, we have, as was mentioned before, and school campuses that are closing could be reused for teacher housing or PCC student housing, given the 10% of PCC students that have housing insecurity. The joint programs that Steve mentioned, we have a health department, we have the Office of the Young Child, we have libraries, and we have Parks and Rec, where we could create MOUs to help support the school and give them a financial break using the departments at the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Shar?
Yes, so when I look at PUSD and I think about affordable housing, and I think what's happened over the last couple of years, it's a tragedy. When we look at what could possibly happen in our district in particular, and we look at permanent supportive housing that could be an option on some of the hotels that are in the area in Colorado, where we could bring more residents in, that would actually help increase the attendance at PUSD. We have to fix that. There's no way that we can continue in the way that we're doing with the great divide of the haves and have-nots, with our students either leaving because they can't afford to live here or going into private schools. So that's a big concern of mine as we go forward, and I plan to address that. Also, when I talk to parents and we talk about the PTA getting involved and parents being involved, they have PTA meetings at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's not serving our parents who have students in several schools and may work till 4 or 5 o'clock. So we really have to talk about how we can make that and turn that around as well, so we can have a successful PUSD system.
Thank you. We've had a few audience questions tonight that we asked earlier about affordable housing. And so this will be a fairly specific question. And if you were here earlier, you may have heard it. In terms of the need for affordable housing in the city of Pasadena, you are likely aware that the state has passed legislation that would require potentially the increase in the number of accessory dwelling units that may be built on properties in the city. And you may be aware that the city is considering a lawsuit against the state to prevent this enforcement of additional building of ADUs. So the question is, this was an audience question, where do you stand? Do you support the lawsuit that the city may take up against the state, or do you support the state legislation on accessory dwelling units? And I think the first to respond will be Tamerlane Godley.
So I agree with the mayoral candidates that talked about local control. This is about local control. There may be places where it's appropriate to have more ADUs, but that's for us to decide. So I don't know, there's going to be, I'm sure, a lot discussed in closed session on Monday night about the pros and cons of this lawsuit, and I'm not privy to any of that. But I do think that we need to be very careful about ceding too much of the control over the things that affect us every day delegate to the state government. We need to be able to make those decisions here. And so to the extent that's part of enforcing that, I would support that. Because to the extent we need more ADUs, we need to be able to decide it here.
Thank you. Councilman Madison on the issue of the state legislation versus local control.
Thank you. Yes, I think as most of you know, I'm an attorney and a former federal prosecutor. I take a special interest in litigation matters with the city council, and I'd like to think the council looks to me especially for my counsel and advice on that. I would say, first of all, the meeting that we're having is Monday night. It's in closed session. We have not yet been briefed on potential litigation about the ADU legislation, and I would say, until we're briefed about that, I can't really assess whether we should or shouldn't. I would tell you that, sometimes we disagree with state legislation, but that doesn't necessarily mean we file a lawsuit. Good example is these elections that are upcoming. We're now put in with federal, state, and local. We decided not to challenge that as a charter city. Another charter city, Redondo Beach, challenged and won. But we decided that discretion was the better part of valor. So I do think it's a problem to have in certain lot sizes 2 ADUs, which is what the new legislation provides. So I will definitely pay close attention Monday night.
Thank you. Patricia Keene, would you like to comment on this?
Yes. So I have heard ADUs described by some people as gentle density, as a way for some additional capacity to be created in areas that are not necessarily appropriate for anything other than a single-family house. And I do think there has been examples in other parts of the region where ADUs have been done successfully. But I think the issue that keeps coming up regarding local control is an example of the state stepping in when cities who are not intending to do the right thing and are not intending to try to meet the goals are acting in a way that the state feels like they need to then tell us all what to do. I think Pasadena comes from a place of wanting to do the right thing, and we often are the progressive voice or the innovative leader in the area. However, on this issue, I would not support a lawsuit challenging the state legislation. I think we have legislation that has been adopted, and I think we need to see how it's going to work.
Felicia Williams.
Sure. For the past 20 years, Pasadena has been doing what the state is now asking other cities to do. We were ahead of the curve with it. We were one of the first cities to convert our mall to housing. Now everyone's doing it. We were one of the first cities to have the first TOD developments. Now everybody is being asked to do it. What has happened? What is the data? I'd like to actually get the data on the vacancies, on how many people are actually taking the gold line. And that data will tell us, give us a vision for how to move forward. And if we decide to do a lawsuit with the state, then we actually have the data to say, based on our data, this is why this doesn't work for Pasadena. We need grounds to be able to do that. So that is the first thing that I would like to do, is actually gather the data and the information. An informed decision is the best decision, and we need to make an informed decision here. If we did proceed to go to a lawsuit, I would join with the other cities in the League of California Cities. They are already preparing a lawsuit, and I would join with them in a lawsuit with them.
Thank you. Charbland?
So I think that for me, when I look at cookie cutter approaches from the state or the federal government that applies to a unique city like Pasadena, that we just definitely have to really take a look and really dissect what's right for us. And ADUs are right for us. We have a homeless crisis going on, and it's our moral responsibility to step up and find ways to do that. And when I looked over the news of the last week, when we don't legalize the ADUs, we have horrific situations where people are doing those anyways, and they're not safe for people to live in. So we might as well legalize it and make sure that homeless people, and homeless shows up in different kinds of ways. Homeless is the invisible people who we need permanent housing for, permanent supports of housing for, who have just maybe lost a job or were tasked financially from a medical situation, and then we have the visible homeless. So we really have to look at this and do what's right for this city of Pasadena.
Thank you. Ryan?
Yes, so I think the larger question of local control has obviously come up a lot tonight. And I think at times it is a code for not wanting to adapt and grow and develop new approaches to taking care of the needs of our residents. I don't know, obviously I'm not, if Steve doesn't know the details of a lawsuit, I certainly don't know what that is either. But I'm with Shar on this. I feel like we need to do everything that we can, and I think we need to allow for ADUs to be developed where appropriate. And I think we can work within the framework of the state mandate and still maintain the character of our community and work within those frameworks to create a system that works for us.
Very good, thank you. And this will be our last question for tonight. What do you see, and there's one answer everyone might give, but I know you'll be thoughtful. What do you see as the city's biggest budgetary challenge over the next 4 years? So over the next 4 years. And we're starting with Councilman Steve Madison.
Well, so I'm actually very proud of the work that we've done on the council in terms of the budget. You know, we had for some time a structural deficit, which meant if you projected known future costs against known future revenues, the lines crossed in a bad way, and all of a sudden you were in the red. Now, thanks really to Measure I and other measures that the council's taken, we have $60 million or so in reserve, and that structural deficit is a structural surplus. So I think the challenge always for the council in terms of the budget is to maintain a very high level of services to the community, even though the cost of those services continues to go up, up, up. But I'm confident that we can continue to do that.
Tricia?
Thank you. And I'm glad you clarified over the next 4 years, because otherwise I think we would be all talking about the pension liabilities that we will be facing at some point in time, and we will absolutely need to address. I do think it is an excellent point made. We're a city that does a very good job of no deficit spending. I think we do need to focus on service delivery, but I think one of the biggest priorities that I would want to see us focus on in the near term is back to the key issues that we need to be solving around housing affordability and homelessness. One of the critical things that the city can do that we're not doing enough of is fund prevention programs. Those are programs that for the cost of a couple months' rent often, we can keep people in stable housing. We can prevent them from becoming homeless to begin with, which then has the trickle-down effect, the good kind of trickle-down effect, of saving money through all of our other programs. So I think this is something that we should absolutely be focusing on, and it is a budget priority that should rise to the top.
Thank you. Felicia, what is the city's biggest budgetary challenge in the next 4 years?
So in the next 4 years, we have achieved some fiscal stability. Beyond the 4 years, we will have some challenges. I've come up with several revenue ideas. I work with cities to issue bonds, and so this is a lot of the work that I do. But I think we do need to look out longer term, and some of the revenue ideas that I have is one, to pursue more grant funding. We are eligible for so many grants, and we don't really pursue a lot of them. Free money is the best kind of money. So first of all, pursue grants. Second, I would really like to look at, Long Beach is looking at it now, a vacant building assessment or tax. There are buildings like Borders, like the one up in East Pasadena, vacant for a very long period of time, and we could really use that money to invest in programs, homeless housing, and affordable housing. So I'd really like to analyze that. And lastly, we have some enterprise funds here, like the Convention Center and the Rose Bowl. They can legally make money, and we actually could use them better and leverage them better to be more productive in the city and also provide services in the city and jobs in the city.
Thank you, Felicia. Shar, what is the biggest budgetary issue you see in the next 4 years for the city of Pasadena?
So I think the city's doing pretty well with the budget right now. However, I really think as I've met with the police and the fire, that there is a concern with the budgetary areas in that way. They're tasked with retaining their personnel that they have. And we want to make sure that, that we sustain that because we're losing them to other cities. And so sustaining the current safety that we have today, as well as recruiting new people into that, so that there's not a constant turnover of training, which costs the city quite a bit of money to do. So as a council person, I would really focus on balancing the budget around that, because I think it's important to our city.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, I think others have said that the budget is in good shape thanks to previous leadership, and I think it is a matter of potentially cutting off services to the community. And I think we need to solve our homelessness problem. I think we are within eyeshot of that. I think we can end it. I think the city can invest more money in affordable housing, and since housing really didn't come up in here, I want to take an opportunity to say that it's a lot cheaper to keep people in their housing than it is to manage the homeless on the street and emergency services. And therefore, I believe our city needs to take seriously rent control and get that done right away. I think we need to just invest in the affordable housing that we know we need, and permanent supportive housing, and with wraparound services and mental health services, and do what I was reading yesterday Finland has done, which is just end homelessness.
And Tamerlan.
So we have to be cognizant of our pension load. It's something we have to manage too. I think it's interesting that Steve says, this year we've been able to get rid of our structural deficit. He's been in this position for 20 years, so much of that time apparently we had a structural deficit. But we have a balanced budget this year, and as he said, largely due to measures I and J. But our pension load is a big issue that we have to be wary of. We have to be concerned about attracting law enforcement. That's definitely true. And we have to think about our social safety net and how we're going to pay for that. It is absolutely true that it's cheaper to keep people in housing. So we need to be really proactive. We have a national model where we let people fall into housing, and then we try and find them and help them, and that's much more expensive. Let's keep them in housing. There's a project in Chicago where they give people back rent and a little bit, few months rent, stabilizes them. A year later, 75% of those people are still in housing. Preventive measures work.
Thank you. And we'd like to thank all of the candidates for City Council in the 3 districts represented tonight. And again, big thanks to Pasadena City College, to ACT. I'd like to acknowledge also our volunteers running the event, John Furman, Denise Robb. Thank you all, and we do have the room for a few more minutes. There's some literature in the back about the candidates, and I'm sure they'd love to talk to you. So everyone have a safe trip home tonight. Thank you so much.
Petition in the back, please. We've got a few minutes before I leave.